Saving seeds like these doesn't just save you money, it helps you build a garden that's stronger, smarter, and more resilient season after season. Today I'm going to walk you through the seeds that I'm saving from my garden, but more importantly, I'll show you the core techniques that apply to almost any seed you'll come across. So whether or not you're growing exactly what I grow, I promise that by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to save seeds that are primed to thrive in your garden. So let's get into it. The first seeds we're going to be saving, this chick lupine. All lupines are legumes, which means that they pump nitrogen into the soil as they produce wonderful flowers. A lot of these have kind of popped open. While this is chick lupine, one of my favorite lupines that I like to grow is a royal lupine. And a royal lupine does a much similar thing where once the seed pods are fully grown or ready, they pop open and they kind of curl out and spread the seeds. Some of these I was able to save and some of these are now in my soil, which is perfectly okay because I love these flowers. Here, if you look on this one, you can see the ones that have popped open. There's no seed left in there, but then I have some like this which haven't popped yet, which I'm willing to bet, yep, it's a great looking seed right there that I can save. If working with a little small bag is proving to be annoying, you can just take a large plate or bowl, place it below where you're working, and then transfer later. I know these plants are done for the season, so I'm just gonna snip it at the base and then snip off all my stems here. And I can see that I've been pretty late with a lot of these seeds. But again, in the context of a fully organic garden, sometimes you just have to give back. So whatever birds this fed, that's totally okay. Now here is a perfect looking specimen, a nice little slightly brown pod, and then a nice kind of textured brownish blackish seed that will be perfect for saving in contrast to those green ones. So here you can see a viable seed and a not so viable seed. The green actually looks like a bean and the brown is something that will actually grow the flower. These are all the ones I've harvested from these two plants. This is more than enough for this fall. Make sure you label it because you will forget, and I am speaking from personal experience there. And now we take the chaff and put it in the compost. Next up, we've got popcorn cassia, which is arguably my favorite perennial in my garden, both for pollinators, aesthetics, and just absolutely no water requirements. It is incredibly resilient. And the pods as they form are green in the beginning, and if I flick it, you hear no noise. But if I go over here, let's find a nice brown pod like this. If I tap it, you can hear it kind of jiggles a little bit. It has a little rattle to it. So what we're going to do is snap off a pod and then do a very similar thing to what we did with the chick lupine. And now I already know that these seeds are of medium viability. Popcorn cassia and plants similar to it need these pods to be completely brown all the way through. So if you look closely, there's still a little bit of green pigment in there, and you'll find that they have a little bit of a harder time coming off of the stem. So these will probably still be fine, but if you're looking for the absolute best germination rates, I would wait another month or so until these pods are completely brown and just pop off the stem with a flick. So even though a pod like this might rattle and have a pretty brown appearance at face value, if it's still a little bit green here at the point where it meets the stem, I would wait a little bit longer to increase the germination rates. It won't pop open, just give it a little bit of time. Now moving along, here we've got some cosmos, more specifically sulfur cosmos. Cosmos are kind of interesting because the seeds are almost kind of like these little plant shivs. And if you look down here below this earth box where these are growing in, you may notice that there are a lot of tiny little seeds that have fallen. Now, if these were just falling straight onto soil or even onto a darker mulch, I would be completely out of luck because there would be no way to spot these. But as luck would have it, this is pretty bright colored concrete, so I can just come through and pick up the ones that have fallen. Unlike the lupines, I'm not going to be cutting these off at the base because you can still see there's some flowers coming in. Now, some of these I have missed almost entirely. That is just flower petals, no seeds, so I can just and all that goes away. But then in contrast, if you look at this one, you can see the seeds are on the front, so I can just go like this and they pop right off. And I've got some seeds. So just come through, pull a lot of these, you'll notice like this, there's no seed pod on there, so there's no point in me pulling and adding to the useless weight inside this little bag. But ones like this, absolutely. Now, if I want this to look a little more aesthetic, and I could obviously take my pruners and cut it all back. So here it is before, and then here it is after. You can see I left a lot of stuff where the petals look kind of dead, but if you'll notice where the petals are dying back, you can see the seed pods starting to ripen, just not ready for seeds yet. Now, a little pro tip here. The chaff is going to be a lot lighter than the seed. So what you can do is you can take your bag, start to bounce it and blow into it, and a lot of that chaff will start to fly right out. Don't blow too hard because obviously you'll blow away your seeds. But you can see we've got a ton of seeds here ready for next season with only a little bit of chaff, and you can either blow this out or pick it apart when you're doing some other task. And now one of the easiest seeds to save, marigolds. Marigolds are arguably the easiest seed to save because as soon as the flowers die back, this turns brown and then the stalk starts to turn brown. They are perfectly ready for harvest. Now all you need to do is down here at the base, grab it and then pull up, and you'll be greeted with a full handful of seeds. Now, much like the cosmos, all of this flowery, colorful material is just chaff. It's entirely useless. But this black and white bit, that is the actual marigold seed. So let's put these in the little baggie and move along. Now, if you're a bit of a maximizer, you want to inspect that little bit of husk where you pulled the flowers from, because chances are there'll be a few more seeds left in there, and you can just kind of squeeze the base and get all of them out. Look in there, there's one more. You can just tear it apart, and there we go. Now we've got every last seed out of that one. So now again, we're leaving the bright and colorful ones alone, and the ones that have started to die back, we can just kind of give a gentle tug, and if they come loose, then they're good to go. Force is not the name of the game here. So this one, you can see it's a little bit green, and when I gently tug on it, it doesn't come loose. Leave it alone. I'm just throwing them in here, coming around some of these. The flowers have died back where there's nothing to grab onto. So for those, I just take the whole thing out, grab my little pouch here, and then break it open and let it loose in there. Same thing right here. You'll see a couple went all over there. That's totally fine. I love marigolds anywhere and everywhere in my garden. There is no bad spot for them. And they are one of the most beneficial flowers, not just for pollinators, but marigolds are great for keeping off root knot nematodes. So if you plant marigolds with your peppers, your tomatoes, it is a good thing, not just for looks and for pollinators, but for the soil itself. So the more marigolds, the merrier. The older the seed pods get, the more the seeds will disconnect from the old flower petals. So that kind of has a reverse benefit where you can't just pull it out by the flower petal, but you can just kind of pull the seed head off. That's plenty for now. Let's move on to something else. Now, those of you that were looking around in the background may have noticed all this scraggly business falling over the edge of this other dragon fruit planter. And this is Alyssum. And Alyssum is a seed that I honestly don't save a lot because the seeds are tiny and I love to let them just reseed everywhere. But that said, I'm going to show you how to do it so you can put it in places where there's no chance that it would reseed otherwise. Here we've got some tall Alyssum, and tall Alyssum is just a variety that instead of doing a kind of ground cover thing, it spreads out, which is great for containers because it fills them out and makes them look bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of take this little stem into the bag. I'm holding it here, and then I'm just going to pull down. We're not looking for perfection here. We're just looking to get a good little bit. And then in the bag, I'm going to just rub everything that I just harvested and gradually pull out that stem. Just rub everything together. These seeds are so small that it's really hard to separate them otherwise. Now, if we look in here, you can see obviously bits of chaff, but you can also see these tiny little brown seeds, or kind of this terracotta color. You can see a bunch right there. This is not one that I would suggest blowing into or trying to winnow because everything is so light that you'll likely just blow away half the seeds. So this is something I would recommend saving for yourself, share with others, but this is not something that I would sell because it's really hard to separate without the right equipment. And then look at that, we've got even more. That's how you save Alyssum seeds. Now, I did want to say one thing real quick about Alyssum, because there's some people who say that it's not as beneficial for pollinators as other, small flowered varieties. And I think if it's the only thing that you're planting, then yeah, it's not the best. But in my garden, it is a massive hit with ladybugs, with hoverflies, and a lot of beneficial insects of that size. So while it's not the only thing that I would grow as a, pollinator attractor, it is incredibly beneficial, and I think you should grow it and save the seeds. Now, while we're talking about small flowers that are great for beneficials, here we have Yarrow, which also has a great range of medicinal uses and can kind of just thrive wherever you plant it. The seeds are also pretty tiny, and like I've said with some of the other varieties, you really want both brown clusters or flowers here and brown stems. So here's one that's about as close as we're going to get today, and we want to treat it kind of how like we treated the Alyssum. So we're going to chop off the top here. We're going to stick it in the bag. This is a little less prone to exploding and putting the seeds everywhere, and then just start to rub the flower heads and just kind of break things apart. So now let's take a look. You can see here kind of towards the bottom, those slightly gray, slightly black, kind of a white halo around them. Those are all good and viable seeds, and you can see a few speckled in there. I treat this similar to the Alyssum, where I'm not really going to try and winnow this or blow at it because half the seeds are going to spread. But even in just this, poorly broken apart flower here, we've probably got a good 30 seeds in there. Yarrow is also incredibly easy to propagate. You could cut this end, stick it directly in soil, put it in some rooting hormone to improve the odds, but obviously both seeds and propagating cuttings are a great way to grow this wonderful and incredibly beneficial plant. Now, scooting over just a little bit, here we've got some calendula, and calendula is also one of those incredibly easy to save seeds with probably some of the weirdest looking seeds you'll ever see. Now, this right here is a perfect calendula pod for seed saving. It is completely brown in every way. You don't really need to worry about the stalk turning green, but what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take this, I'm going to put a little bowl, because I've been saving calendula seeds for a few weeks. I'm just going to squish into here and rub it off into there. You can see there's nothing left. And calendula seeds are really trippy looking. They have these little spines and spikes on them. If you've always wondered why they look so weird, it's because they form around the flower, and then when they dry out, they look like this. Really wonderful flowers. Again, great medicinal use, great for pollinators, and really, really easy to save. Here we've got evening primrose, which all of these stalks are leaning over, but are a good 8 to 10 feet tall. And after a full year of building up energy, they shot tall and are now looking wonderful. When the flowers die back, they kind of wilt like this, and then you're left with these little stubs, and those stubs are going to turn into seed pods. When they're fully green like this, there's not really any seeds to save, but let's find some seeds to harvest a little farther down. Here you can see some seed pods that have already started to burst open. They're not fully brown, but they are fully dry, and the seeds are a little bit bigger than the Alyssum, and it's important to remember there are a wide variety of evening primroses, some that are native and some that aren't. Thankfully, this one is native. Now, if we come up a little bit, we can find these nice brown seed pods. Up here at the top, these are about to pop open flowers, so I don't want to cut the whole thing off. What I can do, these are very similar to Clarkia. If you've ever seen that native wildflower, you can just snap off the pod, and if I just shake it down, I'll get some initially, but if I give it a little bit of a crack, there we go. And that's not even all of them, which is the crazy part. Look how many seeds are just in one pod. I've got my baggie here, and I will be harvesting these for many weeks to come, and I will have just an absolutely insane amount to grow this delightful plant again and again and again. Speaking of ginormous beauties, these black hollyhocks have been an absolute delight to have in my garden. And while they're still getting taller and taller, all of these little funny looking pods are seed pods. And again, the browner they are, the readier they are for harvest. So let me pull one off and show you what the seeds look like and how you can save them. All right, I had to come over to the shade because it is getting pretty hot in the sun. So we've got this little star shape. Now what we do is we pull apart the petals, and we're left with this little kind of cheese wheel looking thing, and that's true of okra, marshmallow, and anything in the mallow family, which these hollyhocks are. Now you might think that this is one seed, but it's actually maybe about 10. So what we want to do is pull it apart, and what we'll be left with is a handful of these. And you can see these kind of little brownish blackish seeds with a little bit of fur on the outside. So each little cheese wheel will end up having maybe about 10 or 15 different seeds, but just look at all those little beauties. The core principles of seed saving is once the plant is fully brown and fully crispy, it's the right time to save seeds. And as a final example here, I've got a loofah from last season. Again, you can see the whole exterior is nice and brown. I've started to peel it, but haven't finished. But if I just literally tip this over and give it a little shake, I have an absolute abundance of seeds. And this is just from one loofah. Loofah in particular is incredible at producing an insane amount of seeds. So if you grow it once and buy seeds once, you'll be good for the rest of your life. And that is true with all of these flowers, vegetables, and other things. If you grow it right once and learn how to save the seeds, you will have abundance for generations to come. So my takeaway for all of you is this: start saving seeds, because not only will it save you money, but it'll produce better varieties that are used to growing in your climate. I hope that this video has been helpful to you, and it has showed you how easy it is to save your own seeds and how much money you can save just by letting things turn brown and then collecting all the goods. As always, it helps out the channel a ton if you both like and subscribe. This has been Aaron, aka Garden Zaddy, and before you leave, make sure you leave me a comment on what seeds you love to save or what you're going to be saving after watching this, and I'll see you on the next one.